Hi, everyone. My name is Razia Cooper, and I am an MSW in New York. Well, not New York anymore, in South Carolina now. And I have my colleague, Michelle Bruxer, a social worker in Canada. And we are here today to really provide a resource to social work students. Michelle is known as the MSW Helper, and I am a higher education consultant. So both of our pathways in social work has led us to this place where we really have a strong passion to support social work students. And we wanted to provide you something as you're exploring, entering in our profession and looking for your programs and starting your applications. If you need help with your application and your personal statement, my girl over here is the plug. She does all things editing and helping you to support your journey in storytelling as you craft the perfect personal statement. And as for me, I have a YouTube channel where I support social work students by providing relevant, current tools, tips, tricks on how to identify programs, how to maximize your journey, and how to enjoy your time as a student. So today we are combining our efforts to provide this quick video for your program so that they can provide to you and support you on your academic journey. And we're not going to keep you long. We're just going to tell you a little bit about us really quickly and then jump right into today's recording. So Michelle, tell the people about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for the introduction. My name is Michelle, and I'm the founder of MSW Helper, which is really a resource hub for people who are applying to Master of Social Work programs. I started MSW Helper after going through that experience of applying to Master of Social Work programs and realizing there was so little support for people who were applying for these very competitive programs. So my company provides, on top of editing services, we have a ton of free resources for anybody who is applying to Master of Social Work programs. So we have templates, blogs, webinars that we host weekly, and just a ton of resources to support anybody who is on their journey of applying to Master of Social Work programs.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for telling them a little bit about MSW Helper. And guys, again, I am Razia Cooper, and I am a macro level social worker. And for my 9 to 5, I work for the NASW, but for my, I want to say 5 to 9, I am a social work student consultant and I work for myself. I provide services for social work students once they get into their programs on maximizing that time and making the best calculated, intentional choices as a student to launch themselves into the profession. While I was a student, I realized that there was a lot of students that were just doing things, but they weren't intentional about connecting the dots to where they wanted to be in the profession. And upon graduation, a lot of students just reached out to me based on my YouTube and seeing my content online and asking me, how did you land X, Y, and Z opportunity after graduating with their MSW? And I explained to them that it was a really calculated and intentional pathway for myself. And I started to support students in that endeavor on being calculated and intentional from the very beginning. I can help you find your perfect program. So today we're going to be talking about 2 quick topics. I'm going to help you identify what's the perfect program for you and not necessarily the perfect program on Google. And Michelle is going to tell you how to craft that personal statement. And then we're going to combine our efforts to just help you build that confidence from the application process that will carry you through graduation. I am going to kick us off with finding your ideal program. So when I talk to students that are going through the exploratory stages of an application and they're just trying to see what program is the best program for them, I have a few things that I think that every student should look into to make that educated guess. All programs in the social work profession are not that unique and niche that you have to focus on an Ivy League program or this specific program to get your desired outcome. If you are looking for a social work program, the first thing that I recommend is ensuring that program is CSWE accredited. So that is the Council of Social Work Education. If your program is not accredited, that might lead to issues down the line if you desire to be licensed as a social worker. So it's super important to look at that criteria as your top of the line reference, right? If the program is CSW accredited, then you know the foundations of social work as a profession is going to be streamlined throughout all of our programs. If you go to Columbia, or you go to a community college and you're taking an intro to social work course, it is going to look the very same way, because there are things in our profession that are streamlined and foundational, and all programs that are CSWE programs have to abide by those guidelines. The next thing that you're going to ask yourself is, what do I want to do as a social worker? There are programs that are more known for clinical trackways. They are known in our social work space as being the clinical hub. This is where you're going to get all the top of the line clinical resources that you need to enter into the profession as a clinical social worker. So ask yourself, what is it that I want to do as a social worker? Do I want to be a macro social worker? Do I want to be a micro social worker? Do I want to be a meso social worker? And if you don't know what those words mean, you can simply Google and it will tell you. But really quickly, micro is individual and family. Do you want to work with people on a direct practice level where you're their therapist, you're their supporter, you're their coach, you're the person bringing them the resources and connecting the dots for them in the community? Meso, do you want to be a community organizer? And macro, do you want to work in high level academia, nonprofit leadership? What do you want to do, right? Once you identify what it is that you want to do, then you can ask yourself exploratory questions that's going to lead you to the program that is right for you. I tell students all the time, the mission of the school matters. How does it align with your personal mission as a social worker? Your professional mission is something that you should craft. I have one, and it's very simple. As a social worker, I desire to work in the macro space, helping nonprofit organizations excel and have systematic systems in place to provide resources and support for the communities that they support. I knew very early on I wanted to be a macro social worker, so I ensured that my program had the pathway that would support that. Another thing that I think that all students have to ask themselves, if the mission aligns with my personal mission, how do I now want to attend this program? Are you looking for an in-person brick and mortar school, or do you want to be a virtual student? And if you're going to be a virtual student, what type of virtual student do you want to be, right? Do you want to have a program that provides live courses with async work, where you get that feel of a true program without it being modular based, but you do it in the comfort of your home? Or do you just want to teach yourself? Knowing these things about yourself allows you to find a program that works for you. The next thing that you want to ask yourself is the duration of the program, right? How much time do I have to commit to my social work program? What do they require from me if I am full-time, part-time, and how does that work with my life currently, right? I know a lot of times we go into programs with an aspiration that I'm going to make a circle fit into a square. And that is not the mindset to have when we're starting our social work program. You have to be really honest with yourself. Does this work with my life right now? Right? Do I have the support systems in place? Do I have the resources? Do I have the finances? Do I have the ability to step away from the other things that are taking my time to focus on this program? And once you fine tune, like, how I want to go to school, how long I want to be in this program, then you create a smaller list and you ask yourself, who is the faculty? I tell people all the time, faculty matters, not because you're going to learn different things, but their approach to teaching is what's going to set you apart. So those are the things that I think are super important for students when you're just looking at a program, right? And identifying what is the right program for you. For me, there was a program that was perfect for me, but it wasn't perfect for my friend. And we applied to the same programs, but our lifestyles were different. The supports that we had was different. The resources that we needed was different. Our learning style was very different. And there was something that she needed that I did not, and vice versa. And that led us to make that decision of what is the perfect program for you. So if you're exploring your programs right now, I encourage you to ask yourself questions outside of what the internet is saying, right? We want to make sure that we're making educated guesses, not guesses, educated choices as we enter into the profession so it's sustainable for us until graduation.
Amazing. That is such great advice. And that really reflects a lot of the things that I share too when I'm working with students. And I really love that idea of like getting connected to your own personal mission. And, at the end of the day, all MSW programs are accredited, right? So there's a standard. So really focusing on like what is best for you. So once you've made a decision about what school is the right choice for you, the next step is going to be the application process. And I know how stressful that can be for people as somebody who has been through that experience. So let's talk a little bit about the personal statement in particular, because that's a really important tool that we have in our application. So, schools of social work usually ask about two key areas in the personal statement. The first is your motivation and your experience and your goals as a social worker. The second part is typically about like a social justice issue, values and ethics, and what a social worker can do to solve that social justice problem. So, one of the best things that an applicant can do is create cohesion between those two areas. So, what I mean by that is if you are saying in your goal is to become like a child welfare social worker, your social justice issue should also have something to do with the child welfare space. I see a lot of applicants make the mistake of, they say they want to pursue child welfare, but then they discuss a social justice issue in gerontology. And as the reader, the person on the admissions committee, it's going to feel a little bit discombobulated, and you're missing a really big opportunity to show the admissions committee your critical thinking skills and your potential to fill a gap in the social work field. So that's why I always say, like, you want to make sure that you are cohesive when you are talking about your own experiences as well as a social justice issue. Now, when applicants are starting to write their personal statement, the first thing that I suggest doing is talking about your insights. So, what I mean by that, and this is the biggest difference between the personal statement and a resume, is that you are taking it much deeper than simply talking about your roles and responsibilities. You really want to dig deep and talk about your insights and the things that you have noticed in the field. So, as an example, when I was in my BSW placement, I did an internship in like a housing community. My roles and responsibilities were providing case management, to a caseload of 30 people, or, organizing events or advocacy or doing my case notes. That's all stuff that belongs in your resume. And that's not really what you want to focus on in your personal statement. What you do want to focus on is your insights from those experiences. So, from that experience, I might talk about the insights that I had about the barriers that my clients were facing in regards to housing, in regards to access to mental health, in regards to, so many of the different barriers that my clients were facing to getting different types of services. So, I can talk about that and then take it even deeper by connecting that to the social justice issue. I had this insight. So, what does the research say? How big is this problem? Is this something that's happening across the country? And what can social workers do to resolve that problem? And I would even take that a step further and talk about what you hope to do as a social worker to resolve that social justice issue. And that really shows the admissions committee that you have strong critical thinking skills, as well as the potential to contribute to the field in a meaningful way, and that you are going to be able to share your unique perspectives and insights in the master's program. So that's my biggest piece of advice for starting your personal statement, is getting really connected to your insights and using that as the foundation as you are answering all of the prompts. Now, the personal statement is without a doubt the most important tool that we have as part of our MSW application, because you can't change your grades. You can't control what your references say about you. You can't go out and get more experience without significantly more time. So the one thing that you have complete control over is your personal statement. And you can use it to control the narrative and write your own story even if you have parts of your application that you are worried about. So, for example, a lot of people come to me and, they're worried about their GPA, which is understandable. Programs are competitive, and if you have a low GPA, you might be worried that your grades are going to put you at a disadvantage. But I find, for example, an applicant might come to me and on paper they have a low GPA, but in their personal statement, we come to find out that that person had a low GPA because they went through something really challenging while they were in their undergrad. So, yes, their GPA was lower, but that experience that they went through taught them resilience and is going to make them a better social worker down the road. And that's something that wouldn't be reflected without the personal statement. So it's really important for like humanizing you and showing admissions committees the person behind the GPA. You can also use it as a tool if you are worried about your level of experience. Again, if you can show that you have the potential that they are looking for, your experience just isn't going to be as important. And I know this because I applied right out of my BSW. So I really had no experience in the field. So I knew that when it came time to apply, it was going to be very important for me to show that I had the potential, even though I lacked like the years of experience. Same thing with applicants who are applying from different fields. A lot of people worry, like, I don't have experience in the social services. I don't know how competitive my application is going to be. But I recently worked with somebody who came from the marketing field. In particular, she was a reporter in her home country. And she was able to really articulate the fact that she was sick of reporting on social justice issues. And so she wanted to become a social worker so that she could be an agent of change and work towards resolving those social justice issues. So that's why the personal statement is so important, because those are all things that can't be reflected through your GPA or your resume. And it really allows you to dig deeper and show admissions committees your motivation, goals, and potential as a social worker.
Michelle, that was amazing and so much knowledge to provide to students. But you said two things that I jotted down because I really wanted us to like expound on that for our viewers. The GPA, the application, and the insight. I think it's really important when you're looking for your programs for you to be realistic with yourself, right? What program can I realistically get into? I have spoken and worked with so many students that come to me because they applied to programs previously and they didn't get in or they got waitlisted, right? And waitlisted is a good thing. I mentioned that on a YouTube video, and I know you do some talking about like that is not a bad thing. That means that they're conflicted on what to do with you. And that's a good problem to have in the application process. But when I work with students, one of the things that I really try to get to them is setting their expectations in a place that they can get met, right? And not a place that is going to push you further from the profession because of disappointment, right? So if you know you have a lower GPA, but you know you have an amazing story that tells great insight on why that GPA is lower, yes, I will tell you, shoot for the stars and apply for every program you want to go to. When we are going through the application process as a student, you have to be so aware of yourself and confident in one, your story, two, expressing that story to someone that doesn't know you. And they have no insight on you, right? They're looking at paper. Paperwork is basically painting the picture of who you are, how you're going to be in their program, and if you are a candidate that you are worth taking the risk on. I tell students all the time, the same way you're applying to these programs, they're reviewing you as an alumni. So they're thinking to themselves, if this person went through this program and they graduated, what impact would they make on the social work profession that would then look good for us? So I love that you mentioned just like focusing on your insight. And can you tell them a little bit more on how to develop that insight, right? Because I think oftentimes it's easy to create a resume, but it's very hard for us to ask ourselves, what did I learn from this experience outside of the words that's on the resume?
For sure. Yeah. The personal statement is such a unique document. And for most of us, we will hopefully only ever have to write it once. And so this doesn't always come naturally to people, right? Which is why I do what I do, because I know that, the profession is missing out on some people who have those insights, but nobody has ever taught them how to do that. So yeah, like I was saying, I would say when you are just starting to think about it, I have a few tools that people can use to support with this, such as my like personal statement template, and I host webinars where I kind of go into more detail. But just for the purposes of today, I really would start with just listing out all of your experiences and start thinking about, the problems that your clients were facing or the things that you noticed and why those things motivated you to pursue a Master of Social Work. Because ultimately there's likely a reason that pushed you to pursue a Master of Social Work. And this can even come from your personal experiences, right? A lot of us enter the profession because we have been through something in our lives. So like that can be a source of insights for people. For example, I had a client recently who her mental health challenges were worsened because the community that she was part of and her culture didn't recognize mental health. And so she had a lot of difficulty getting access to supports. And so she was able to recognize that and talk about that as her social justice issue and really show like the research about like the mental health outcomes of people in her community, and talked about how as a master's level social worker, she was going to be the person providing mental health supports and educating her community and like working towards ending some of the stigma that her community faced around mental health. So that is an example of a really amazing insight that she had based off of her personal experience, where she was able to connect it to the bigger picture and show how she was going to be able to like fill a gap by pursuing a Master of Social Work.
That is amazing. And I think that one of the things that I would hope that the viewers are taking away from this is that your why matters, right? The why you're looking into programs, the why you're even working on your application matters. And that is a strong foundation, and it helps to build your confidence when it comes to storytelling. I went from my BSW to my MSW program, and like Michelle, I didn't have a lot of experience outside of the internship that I was provided in my BSW program. But one of the things I had to utilize was the art of storytelling, right? And I wasn't really confident at first when I was doing this, but I reminded myself, like, what is my why? Why do I want to be a social worker, right? And I framed my entire personal statement around that storytelling. And when you're looking at programs and you're looking at them from the lens of a future candidate, a future student, you're asking yourself, like, what does this program have in store for me? How is it a great fit for me? And that is even before you get into the storytelling. So I think for students that are envisioning themselves as social workers and getting into the profession, knowing your why, knowing what you bring to the table, and utilizing all of that to share your story with admissions is going to secure the deal. We can't guarantee that you're going to get into every program, but we can guarantee that if you're making the right choices for yourself, you'll be able to craft a story about yourself that will get you to the table.
Yeah, and that's so true. And it's, that having a clear why, as you mentioned, that's going to help you pick a school that's aligned with your own values. And that why is also going to carry through in your personal statement. And with those two pieces together, like that's going to make you a strong candidate that shows that you are aligned with the program and the profession as a whole. And that's something I work on with clients as well, is really developing their why and using that as an anchor for their personal statement.
That was amazing. We really hope that this quick video allows you to see that you are confident enough to apply for social work programs, that you have what it takes to explore the profession and to research. You are your biggest advocate when it comes to your application process. You know you better than anyone else, and you know what program will be a great fit for you. And myself and Michelle, we are great resources. We're going to provide an ebook and some templates just to support you on your journey. But you can always reach out to us. I'll make sure that I drop our social media handles and our emails in this video so you guys can reach out to us. But it's not as scary as you think. Take a deep breath in, exhale out, write your why, and make sure that you build everything based on that why, from your programs, from your personal statement, and from your professional endeavors. Base it on a why and you will never fail. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we hope to see you soon.